for this week. Let's start with you, Duo.
Dude, I've been looking forward to this since what is it, week 7, week 8, after I went 7-0. And then I probably shot the bed right after, but no, I'm pumped for this.
Last time you were in playoffs, just curious.
Uh, it's been at least 4 years, I want to say.
Was it Discord era, you think?
Huh?
Was it in the Discord era where we had like Discord chat or
No, it
guys
was
slide?
before that.
Yeah.
Because I
So
went
this is
10th and
yeah,
10th
yeah,
2 years in a row.
right. So I think with the Discord chat era, like there's so much more discussion like every week because it's not just us like texting each other separately or like
Mm-hmm.
you know. So like with Discord era, like every week, not just playoffs, but every week is kind of like crazier and like we have discussion and like talking about like everything we see like together. So it really is, I think, a different feeling than like pre Discord era.
Yeah, I believe the last time you were in the playoffs, Duo, you knocked me out first round. Is that correct?
Maybe. That might have happened.
Well, how are you feeling? It must be really, yeah, it must be quite some time for you. Quite a time.
Yeah, I mean, everything that happens from here on out is kind of gravy for me. I honestly I didn't really expect to be here after like week 8 or 9, um, after everyone started getting injured. So I don't know. You talk about like when people peak. I'm hoping that people come back just in time, but like this hasn't been really the same squad for like the last 3 or 4 weeks, and kind of just managed to squeak in. So I'm excited. A little tired, but excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be exciting. I think you probably have as much of a chance as anyone else. So it's gonna be really cool to see what happens in your season. And then Dustin, you've been here the whole year, but
Yep.
you can go ahead and say your spiel for how you're feeling as we head
Yeah,
in.
I mean, I think this season really it is close to like 25% chance for I think each playoff teams like maybe like at most one team is like 30% and one team is like low 20s or something like that. But it really is as even as I think we've seen in a long time, and that has to do with some of the top teams I think faltering a little bit down the stretch, and then WAD's team put up 220 like 2 weeks ago. Duo's team had like the second highest score, week 13. So I it's really hard to say who's the favorite and who's not because some teams look like they're peaking at the right time, and other teams that look stronger during the regular season earlier seem to be a little bit weaker right now. So I really think it's going to be a wide open playoff field.
Yep, definitely agree. And Ken is not here, but I will speak a little bit for him. I think I've talked a little bit with him because I wanted to try and get him onto the show. He's laying low. He wants to avoid the media right now. He wants to stay quiet and just pray to the fantasy gods. I do think he's very much tuned in terms of listening, though. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
probably even listening now. I don't know if he is, but I bet he is, and I bet he will eventually listen to it if it's not right now live. He's reading all of the things in the Discord, I think, and um, yeah, I wish the best of luck to him. We'll see how it goes for him. Um, Speaking of favorites, I don't want you guys to predict. I mean, it's gonna be too hard. But if you guys were to say right now, who is the favorite to win? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
It's definitely me.
Definitely you do.
Um,
Okay.
Definitely me, without a doubt. I don't know. I think back in like week 11 or so when I beat Diaz and Kimmel, I don't know. Like something happened with my team. It got a little spark from Jameis or so. Like I had
I
Mm.
three.
love it. Yeah. Oh, the Jameis.
Mm.
He's gone, but he left a spark for your team.
Yeah, let me take you back to week 11 when you won 124 to 117. That was quite quite a riveting victory. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Actually catapults me into the playoffs, right? So like
True.
all of a sudden my team started getting all the confidence. We felt really good about the ensuing week. I started getting healthy all over again. I mean, like I feel pretty good going into this, even though my projections kind of suck right now.
That's great to hear. I mean, I love the confidence. Do you-
I got the fantasy gods too, so it's working out pretty well.
Sorry, what was it? You have the what?
The fantasy gods.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Hua, you have thoughts on a favorite?
I still like Ken's team. frankly. I know he's lost a lot of momentum, but it's like compared to when we thought he was like a greater than 50% favorite at one point. I don't know. I like the fact that there's a redemption story where he was out over his skis and was like cackling too much. Then he got smacked down, and now he's he's doing the right thing by hiding in a hole. So I like Ken.
Yeah, that's a great point. He has quite the story for this season, and as we've talked about a lot in the past couple of weeks, it's really tied a lot to you, Hua, where you guys have made a couple deals with each other, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. Dustin, your thoughts on a favorite?
I mean, it's crazy to say this because this team was 7-6, and the injuries that they've suffered, it is crazy. But I actually, like, if I have to say the team I'm most afraid of, I think it's still Virginia. Their roster is still very, very good, even with the injuries. And I think the X factor is that they could get, one or two or even maybe three guys back from injury. And I think that makes this roster, so scary. And I know Derrick Henry didn't have, the December week that we thought he was going to have last week, but I still stand by that, December Derrick Henry, narrative, and I think he's going to be a big difference maker down the stretch. I think.
Yeah.
You get past me first, man.
It's true, but I mean, yeah, favorite is very loosely used. I do think every team has, something going strongly for them. For Oakland, it's obviously Wayne Gallman. For Virginia, I think Derrick Henry can really set it off. And every team definitely it really is going to come down to who gets hot right now. I don't think any team is strong enough to win on a subpar week. Just because like how we're going into the playoffs, I just think everyone is too close for you to get away with less than your best. So it's really going to come down to some variance, some matchups, some guys going off at the right time. So. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a true favorite, but Virginia does catch my eye.
Yep, and so we do have to talk about a little bit. Virginia, you just made it in. A week ago you were not in the playoffs. It was Andrew Chu's team in Flushing that had the spot, but then he lost his matchup, and you won, and that got you in via the tiebreaker. So congrats to you on that 4 seed.
You're welcome, Virginia.
you guys, I heard like on the show 2 or 3 weeks ago, you like didn't even know what the tiebreakers looked
no,
like.
We weren't.
Actually, like I think after like starting in like week 7, I knew exactly what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think in like week 9, when we had 4 weeks left, I was like, I looked at my 4 matchups and I thought there's a shot I can go 3-1. I thought that I would lose to Ken and win against John. It turned out to be the opposite. And then to get in, I would basically need Andrew Chu to go 2-2 because, I think I was facing Diaz week 13, right? So I always and Diaz, even at that point, he had McCaffrey on bye. So I was actually like praying at the trade deadline he couldn't move him. So like I knew the whole time that I if Chu went 2-2, I'd have probably destiny in my own hands. So like I just kind of kept quiet and I don't know. I like knew exactly what I needed to do, which I got lucky. It kind of happened. I would say like after week 12 or after week 11, I was probably at a low point though because I just lost to John.
Yeah.
And Chu was like had gone 2-0, and I needed him to go 2-2.
Right. Yeah, that's rough.
So you went 2-0 in the last 2 weeks, and he went 0-2. That's where it stood after week 11.
Yeah, and that the first win I got was against Ken, and it was like right when that was before his team started to kind of see cracks, so that was really exciting.
If you look at it from like right after week 11, like you were really up against the odds because you need Chu to lose out and you to win out, and you had tougher, maybe not tougher, but like tough matchups on paper. So
yeah, it's amazing that it worked out, and kudos to you for keeping your head down, getting it done. You did need a little bit of luck, but still, you got your part done, and that's very admirable. Let's start by looking at one of these playoff matchups, the 1 seed versus the 4 seed here, and let's start with Virginia. We just talked about how you got in. And we talked a little bit about how your team is extremely scary. If I'm one of the playoff teams, I'm very scared of this team. It starts with Derrick Henry, and he's got a juicy matchup against the Jaguars, right? That is going to be huge. I guess for you, Duho, when you're looking at Waz's team, what are you trying to root for, root against? What's going on in your mind?
So this matchup is pretty important, obviously, but the biggest things that I saw were the starting of David Montgomery and Calvin Ridley, of course, right? I mean,
Uh-huh.
That's gonna be so juicy because
Uh-huh.
yeah. And then Ridley, he's been pretty solid throughout the year, but that's the direct result of the trade that I decided to do with him and kind of gamble on. Because obviously I didn't expect him to make the playoffs given all his injuries and all the shit that he was dealing with. And here I am, I'm facing these guys. Montgomery in a juicy matchup against Houston, who has pretty much no defense. They got Ridley facing off against the Chargers in what I expect to be a pretty high scoring affair as well. And if you look on my lineup right now, I'm not starting any of the players I traded for.
yeah,
So
yeah.
put in there. Mostert is injured or kind of looking shitty, and he's in a top. So I took a pretty big gamble. Just thought that I can get some upside through that trade, but right now I don't know. But the thing that I did was I actually picked up Cole Kmet today. He's been kind of ramping up a little bit. So it's kind of like a high risk, high upside kind of play, given that he's playing 50 right now.
Before we go to Hua, let's go to Dustin. Your thoughts on Hua's current starting lineup?
Yeah, I mean, this duo nailed it. This could be so juicy in terms of the narratives and the stories because we were kind of scratching our. I mean, we weren't sure exactly what Oakland was hoping to achieve with the Montgomery and Ridley for Marquise Brown and Mostert trade, right?
Yep.
But now here we sit in week 14 and they're facing each other, and currently Oakland has both those guys on the bench, which means all those quote unquote good matchups didn't play out to the fact where he trusts them to start. And on the other side, Virginia is starting both of them, and it does look like those matchups could be pretty good too. So, no one knows how close this game will be, how this matchup will be, but it could easily come down to that trade making the difference. And Duo said it himself, he wasn't sure that Virginia was going to make the playoffs, so he did take a bit of a gamble in trading some pretty decent or viable guys to him. But that might come back to bite him, and we might see a week one seeding upset in terms of seeding where the 4 beats the 1, and those players could be a big part of it. So I'm really excited to see how that storyline plays out.
Well, you got stuff to add on here?
Yeah, I mean, when I look at, are we talking about Duo's team? Can I talk about his team? Or, yeah, I mean...
Either one, yeah. Go ahead if you want to go ahead with that. I mean, before if you want to move on to Duo's team, I just want to say I think, there are so many names here that you don't expect them to go off, but I feel like they're gonna go off this week. It's just like a feeling that I have, and two really stand out to me. It's Ronald Jones and Marvin Jones. I feel like those guys are gonna have big weeks. This I don't know, just a feeling, and it's. It's not really anything that's coming with a lot of reason. We'll see exactly what happens. I'm just trying to make a bold prediction here. But those guys, I think they're going to play a role week 14.
Huh. I hope you're right.
You don't have to listen to me, but I'm just making some bold calls. That's what I'm going to do for every team. Go ahead and talk about it.
My lineup is still in flux right now. I have no idea if 3 of my guys are going to go. I think Galladay's not going to play, right? So probably sticking with Marvin Jones, and then Swift. It's I don't know. It's totally up in the air, right? But I might be trying to fit him into the lineup. I don't know. One thing I would point out, I was talking to Duo earlier, and compared to any other playoff team, I'm at this point only starting 2 players that I started the season in my starting lineup, and it's Derrick Henry and Mike Evans. And if Evans is injured, I'm going to be starting 1 player from the beginning, which I don't know. It kind of looks like I look at my team, and it's weird, right? I was telling you it's hard for me to select 5 guys that are like really
Yeah.
truly my guys
Yeah.
because very few of these guys spent the whole year on my team. But no, I mean, I do look at it and objectively think I have some pretty good matchups this week, so I'm hoping that pans out.
Side note, I do wonder what Virginia's highlight reel is going to be. Like, is it going to be guys that didn't start for him most of the year, or is it going to be guys that aren't starting for him in the playoffs? Like one or the other has to happen, right? Like it's either going to be some guys that you know for the first like 10 weeks of the season didn't really factor into his team, or you know vice versa. So that should be pretty funny or interesting.
No, it's
Yeah,
just
I
gonna
mean,
be 4 minutes of Derrick Henry, and that's it.
Also very viable, very very viable.
some of those guys might be on Ken's team too. I don't know.
Yeah. I just want to say though, like this, you know, I've been like, you know, beating this drum all year. I've said you've killed it in the trades, and that was even before you made, you know, the trade with Duho. But seeing how that you could possibly have 2 playoff starters from that trade and handed Duho like, you know, 2 guys sitting on his bench, I think, you know, that's another sign of how good your trading acumen has been this year. Like, do you agree that you've, you know, pretty much nailed, like, you know, stuff has happened to make some of the trades look, you know, a little bit worse than maybe they should because, you know, Galladay got hurt, Swift got hurt. But I really do think you nailed the value in pretty much every trade you made this year.
Yeah, I think the process. I think my process was sound, objectively. I do like the trades I made. Obviously, Galladay has put up a total of 0 fantasy points for me so far, so that's not great. But I can't really. I don't think I'd go back and do anything
not
else.
A single one, yeah.
Yeah, it's admirable. Although I do wish, you know, why'd you have to hurt Galladay like that? I have Galladay in a different league. Like you got, come on, man. Let's go to Oakland, and I also think this is a scary team. I mean, I'm gonna just be repeating that every single time, right? All 4 of these teams are really good. There's no, as we covered earlier, there's no real favorite. Did I even say who I thought was the favorite? I don't think I said that. If I was to have a favorite, by the way, I think we'll cover it later. I'll say what I'll say later. But anyways, Dustin, let's start with Dustin. Your thoughts on Oakland?
Yeah, I mean, I think Josh Allen had such a really good start, and then he did tail off in the middle. So I think we've kind of forgotten about how good he's been, especially down the stretch. But I think Josh Allen might be, you know, possibly the best player on either side in this matchup, and I think that gives Oakland a really good chance. Otherwise, he's kind of cobbled together some pieces that I think are still pretty interesting. Like he picked up Jamison Crowder off waivers. He said Cole Kmet he also just picked up. You know, a lot of these Wayne Gallman, like some of these guys, you know, they're unheralded, but I think Josh Allen is the guy who drives the train. Him, and obviously his superstar kicker, young Koo.
Of course.
Those 2 guys, I think, are the major, like, consistent guys every week that put up, you know, significantly more points than the average player at their position. And I expect we're going to need to see the same. What does give me a little bit of, you know, pause is that Josh Allen is playing against Pittsburgh. So, yeah, we'll see if he can be, you know, the powerful Josh Allen, you know, that put up 41 points last week, 48 points against Seattle. You know, he's had some really big games. So I think Oakland is going to need that kind of performance from him to win in the first round of playoffs.
Well, how's it feel to stare at this roster right now?
It feels like I'm looking at a lot of familiar faces.
Yeah, Josh Allen too.
Yeah, Josh and Kirk are both, you know, my
Yeah.
And I also, you know, I personally, I'm a little annoyed that Jonathan Taylor is kind of hitting his stride now. I think the Las Vegas matchup is really good. I mean, I was looking at I was scouting out Ty Johnson over this week. And I don't know, but personally, I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on the player, but I saw that the Raiders got nowhere near him on so many plays. So I'm actually very scared of the Jonathan Taylor matchup this week. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm also obviously scared of Koo because I mean, this projection here is just trash, right? 8 points from Koo.
Yeah.
I mean,
Maybe in the first half he might have.
yeah, this is ridiculous. And by the way, I'm so next year I'm definitely overbidding on a kicker because I've actually gone through 6 kickers this year, and I think I'm like 9th in kicker scoring this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Who?
What?
Who? And I think this matchup is going to be good for him because I think Atlanta's offense is not full strength, but they manage to move the ball all the time anyway.
Yeah.
So them not being full strength actually just means that their drives just stall out. Like Matt Ryan has been that kind of quarterback. The Falcons have been that kind of offense this year, and I don't see that changing against the Chargers, where I do expect the pace to be high, and therefore Koo to get a bunch of attempts too. So.
Duo, if you want to tell the story of your roster right now, the starting lineup that you've got, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of limited on choices, right? Like, if you see my bench and who I have, I actually have a lot of running back depth, a lot of depth that I didn't expect to have at this point in time. Because if I look back, even like 4 weeks ago when I made that trade with Law, like I was struggling with Taylor being split up with Hines and Wilkins. I had Kenyon Drake that was hurt, and then I think the only other guy that I had was what's his face, David Montgomery. So like, it's kind of interesting to see all this depth. So like at the running back situation, like I've been kind of rotating Kenyon Drake and Wayne Gallman back and forth, trying to figure out who's going to be a better matchup, who's going to play out a little bit better. But I got a lot of confidence in the Giants right now. They've been kind of crushing it and beating Gallman. So I actually am very high on my team. A lot of sites, a lot of pundits don't think very highly based on some of the wide receivers I'm putting out there, but I think there's a lot of upside and a lot of scoring potential just based on some of the caliber of the names that are on this list here. I'm especially high on Eckler this year or this week. I mean, I think he's gonna go off for like 20 plus points this week.
Wow. Yeah.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
just real quick.
Yeah.
I think the Chargers Falcons game is going to be huge for your matchup in general because he has Herbert on the other side. He has Calvin Ridley. You obviously have Koo and Eckler, right? So I like those. Those are I think some of the biggest players in this matchup. And it could be very swingy depending on like what happens if Herbert gets passing touchdowns and Eckler just gets yards instead of the touchdowns, then it could be bad, and vice versa. If Eckler gets some rushing touchdowns and Herbert is kept off the board in terms of scoring. Obviously, Ridley scoring, that hurts Koo because 1 point instead of the 3 or 4 points that he usually gets on drives that stall out. So yeah, if I'm interested in seeing how your matchup turns out, I think that game will be very very pivotal and like illuminating on how it will turn out.
Yeah, and I've been seeing a lot about how Eckler, ever since he's come in, has actually lowered the ceiling of Keenan Allen because he's taken away a lot of those targets.
Yeah, people are saying that. Yeah.
Yeah, having somebody as awesome as Eckler that can catch the ball like that really changes the dynamic of how Herbert's been playing. I think the last 2 weeks he's had like 24 targets, which is kind of insane for him.
What? That's crazy. Yeah, you guys are really good at this, and have pretty much covered everything that I was thinking about. The Gallman Taylor, you guys nailed it. The big thing for me, if I were to go bold, I mean it's not even that bold, but I think Kirk and Josh Allen, they're gonna pop off. I mean I think they're going to be carrying you here. I think that's where the clear advantage is for you, Duho, versus Wall, your QBs. Of course, Wall does have Herbert, but we glossed over it. There's Trubisky there, so I think the advantage. I mean, he is facing Houston, so it's not like it's an awful play. I think it's a good play, but regardless, I think your QBs will be the advantage. And one thing that did stand out to me right now as I was looking at your team, Duo, is that you're banged up. You've got these red flags going in. I didn't realize Kenyon Drake, he had an injury as well, so possibly limiting him. I don't know, but
yeah,
should be interesting.
Today, or they all practiced today except for Hopkins. But yeah, I mean Hopkins he's not going to miss a game. I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
Should have enough bodies. It's just a matter of if any of them are limited physically by injury.
The only one I'm concerned about is probably Crowder.
Yeah.
But without Mims out there, and I think Perriman's also injured as well, and the fact that they don't really have running game, and you're facing a Seattle defense, there's a lot of optimism there.
Yeah, and it's Darnold. He likes Crowder. Paul, did you want to say something?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
was sighing.
I thought I saw you, but never mind. So yeah, let's move on to the other playoff matchup. I'm sure you guys. I don't know if you guys have as many thoughts because you guys might be staring at the other matchup as it is. Let's start with great kills because Ken's not here. We're gonna put you last. Sorry. God, this stacked roster. It's just really deep, and I really like the Gasecki pickup. But yeah, Duho, let's start with your thoughts on great kills.
I think it's the most complete roster that's out there right
Yeah,
now, and it's been my favorite coming into this playoffs. Besides my team,
right.
just because of the strength of quarterbacks, the depth that he has at running back. Like even though he lost Antonio Gibson, like look at the rest of his roster. Like he just slots in, who is it, Devontae Parker and Miles Gaskin. Like he's set this year. It's just a lot of strength all around here. And a lot of people talk about how strong Ken's team is, and you have a few stars, but you know, looking at Dustin's team and the kind of matchups that they have set up right now, like Zeke at Cincinnati, James Robinson versus Tennessee, who just got blown up by the Browns. Like, there's a lot of opportunity for Dustin to put up a significant amount of points this week.
Yeah, Hua, your thoughts on great kills?
Yeah, I know I picked Ken's team earlier to win it all, but I actually might want to rescind that because the one thing that I forget because I was like heads down like ever since it happened, but I think the Adams Rogers stack is like every bit as potent as Mahomes Kelsey, if not more,
Yeah.
and that scares the crap out of me. And because like it feels like every week is going to hit once or twice, if not three times, and if you're facing this team in the finals, and I know it's not this week, but like next week, I mean, how many like if you had to pick like an over under how many times Devontae Adams scores in a 2 week period, like is it 2.5? Right? Like that's probably the scariest thing to me, like on any of these two rosters.
Yeah, they just get to the goal line and Rogers just decides to throw it. I don't know if it's for the records or something, but he just always finds Adams, and that connection is just too strong for most teams, and especially this week they're facing Detroit. So, yikes.
Oh shit, Ken joined.
What?
He
Really?
might just be listening. He might just be listening. He is in the room.
Oh yeah, he is in the Discord channel.
He's checking to
stewing.
see if we're talking shit about
He's getting it all without the 20-second delay of Twitch. Dustin, how what are your thoughts on how you set up your starting lineup right now? And you can go ahead and tell the story that you have for how you got here.
Yeah, I mean, this team is obviously very, very solid. I don't think there's many holes except for, tight end all year has been kind of a trouble spot, but that's the case for a lot of teams, to be perfectly honest. Not having Antonio Gibson, it is pretty big because like he kind of provides depth at two positions at once because it gives me more options at both positions, but it does seem like I do have enough depth right now with Miles Gaskin coming back at the right time. I still have Kareem Hunt on my bench, so it's not all bare. I do think the matchups on paper look pretty good for this team. Especially hopefully the Rodgers and Devontae Adams stack, which I do think is the most powerful stack. Um, at least on paper.
Yeah,
We'll see how it
across
plays
the
out.
land. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to say. I do think this team is as good as any, if not, the favorite. So it should be very close at worst. And I don't know. I am cautiously optimistic, although I try not to get too high on my own team going as well.
Yeah, I do have one question for you, Dustin. In terms of, you made your move, you got the two QBs, and Rodgers has been amazing, but Russell
Yeah.
Wilson, what's going on there, and how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson really hasn't been the player that we thought we were trading for. Pretty much fell right off a cliff right after we traded for him. So, I mean, it's undeniable that he's a great player. In terms of fantasy, he
Of course,
hasn't
yeah.
been playing very well. He's been, throwing a little few picks and just not connecting as consistently as he was before the trade. So it's more of a thing of like, is this just a cold stretch that we caught, and hopefully he'll trend back up, or is there an underlying reason for why his numbers started trending down after? Did teams start playing him differently? Did they lose someone on their offensive line or somebody part of their team that was crucial to his success early on? So deciding what is the reason is up to the specific person's opinion. But we do believe that Russell Wilson will come through. He's got the talent, he's got the weapons, and I do think he will be out to like prove something. And against some easy matchups, hopefully he does what he was doing earlier in the season.
True. Yeah, he's got the Jets. It's although I mean, yeah, it should be fine. I think it's going to be interesting because he's facing Tyler Lockett on the other side. So that game, I mean, who he targets in that game will be important. The other thing that stands out to me is you've got 3 Dolphins players in your starting lineup, and that's going to be a huge portion of your points, maybe depending on how that game goes, right? So if that game goes poorly for you, it could be the end. But if it goes really well, then that's how you're getting your ticket to the final. So that's one thing to look at. Do you guys have anything else on great kills before we move on?
I just want to say I just looked at the Packers matchups the last 3 weeks of the season.
They're godly.
And I know. What? All right. I mean,
they're amazing. It's Lions, Panthers, Titans for those who don't know. It's it's pretty crazy. Yeah, maybe you don't need to worry if you just have the Rodgers Adams stack. That's all you need. Duho?
Yeah, I'd be more concerned about Russ, to be honest with you. So, in my opinion, I think the reason why he hasn't been that great is because Chris Carson's been injured the whole time. Carson was a beast in the first half of the season before he got injured. A lot of dump offs, a lot of touchdowns that really held that offense together. But without a consistent run game, it's been all on Russ, right? And they've been able to kind of stop the pass a little bit better in that regard. But now that Carson's back, now that he's healthy, I think Russ is going to get it back together, and I think he'll be fine for the down stretch. But then I looked at his remaining schedule for Week 15 and 16. He's got Washington football team, and then he's also got the Rams in consecutive weeks. So I don't know. I feel like even though both of these teams are super strong, I would probably want to face Dustin in the finals if I make it there. Because of the kind of lack of production or potential lack of production he might get from there. But we'll see.
Oh man, I should have asked that earlier about the other matchup too. But Juan, who would you want to face if you were to win? There's a lot of hypotheticals, of course, but if you were to win, who would you want to face?
I think I'd prefer to face Ken, not because I think his team is weaker. But I just beat him, so I do feel a little better. About that.
Yeah.
By the way, if I were to paint a narrative on how Dustin might lose this week, I think the KC Miami game is huge, right?
It is huge.
Like if Miami just lays an egg, which KC just shut down Drew Lock, so
shut down, yeah.
Tua doesn't stand a chance against him.
Yeah, it's true. I think that game will be important. If this is the final lineup that Dustin's putting out there, it's going to be that's 3 of your spots, and I know one of them is a tight end, but still, it's going to be very important. Why don't we move on to Capital Region here now? I believe Ken just left, so unfortunately for him, he's not going to hear about what we talk about his team. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe he's just trying to avoid everything right now and just focusing on...
Media blackout.
Yeah, media blackout. Just don't be
influenced.
influenced.
A scouting report on great kills, and that's it.
Oh, I see. But obviously, it's another great team. I mean, the main... We covered it a little bit, but the main problems that you face when you're looking at Capital Region is the Mahomes-Kelsey stack, and no one else has a tight end that's as good as Kelsey. It's just insane and automatic that he's as good as he is right now. There are still a lot of question marks, though, I think, and I'll let any of you guys want to take it. Duo, your thoughts? You can go either way, positive or negative.
I mean, how could you be negative about this team, right? It's pretty solid at the top here.
Yep.
And he's got a lot of interesting receivers on his team that I think Ken's done a pretty good job of making some appropriate waiver wire moves. Of course, we've talked about Robbie Anderson all throughout this year. The Kiki Kuti pickup was pretty huge because I think he put up 20 points against me last week. Um, and he's just been taking advantage of some of those opportunities and finding out ways to make sure that his team can be still together no matter what the situation might be. Like Will Fuller getting suspended, for example. On top of that, look at his quarterbacks, right? He's got Mahomes in a very promising matchup. Tom Brady against Minnesota, which I actually think might be the highest scoring game this week, just based on the kind of caliber of the offenses there. It's hard to be down on this team, despite the fact that they're downtrending in the last couple of weeks here and coming off a couple of losses that were pretty close, I'd say. And he also picked up the Giants defense, right? And, they've been crushing it. They just shut down Russell Wilson.
Right.
Kyler seems to be a little bit banged up and not doing as well. As much as I love Kenyon Drake, I mean, he's only getting 10 carries and getting 40 yards at a time. Like, it's not really much to talk about. So I think Ken's team, we've been talking about how strong it's been for the past few weeks. Maybe not as much in the last 2 weeks, but still, he's still got a lot of star power on his team. I think it's going to carry him all the way here.
Oh, for sure. He's got plenty of star power. Well, you want to talk more about the stars on Capital Region?
Do I have to?
Yeah, it could be painful for you. It could be painful for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's got some tougher matchups this week.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
Yep.
But I mean, the team led by the stack with the tight end is I think it has been the team to beat for the entire season, right? I do think I made the ultimate sacrifice by giving him Will Fuller, my guy, and who then got suspended.
Yeah,
Did you learn that from LIC? Trading away a guy right before he's about to get suspended, or
No comment.
Okay.
Implementing some tricks.
I do I think Ken has mentioned this in the past, right? But as I think he knew he was going to make the playoffs 4 weeks ago or something like that, right? So I would have expected him to maybe plan out his defenses a little bit more. I mean, I guess he's rostering 3 defenses, right? But they're not 3 that I'm that excited to have for the playoffs. I mean, the Giants is an okay. It's a pretty good stream this week, but I also I don't know, my personal philosophy is I don't want to start a defense where there's a path to just getting blown up. And I do think Kyler has that kind of explosive ability, right? They have big playability, and the Giants could put up 25 points, but they could also go negative. Personally, that's my feeling.
Right.
And I don't even know why. Is there a reason to roster Minnesota at this point? I don't know. I would have expected him to pick up guys a little sooner. I mean, he probably could have had the Saints, right? Doesn't he have a ton of fab?
Yeah. Oh no, he actually used it all. So this is
Wow.
I think been his biggest weakness all year. Figuring out how to work the defenses. Sometimes he's played some poor defenses against decent matchups and got blown up because the defense just wasn't very good. Sometimes he's played a good defense against a tough matchup and he got blown up there too. So it's definitely been the problem spot for him all year. And you're right that if he knew that he was going to make playoffs earlier, which he probably did, after Oakland, he was probably the second team that knew they were going to make playoffs. I would have expected a better combination of defenses assembled right here. What scared me really this waiver period, which I'm sure we'll get into later. Flushing actually dropped Carolina defense against Denver this week, right?
Yep.
So I was really worried, is Capital Region going to pivot to that defense to play Carolina defense against me? But it turns out I'm pretty sure they used all their free agent budget.
They did.
Yep.
Oh no.
They used all of it. They had 20 2 weeks ago. So I was checking to see, okay, maybe I'll drop some of my lower guys to try to block him because I have a lot of fab. I just don't have a lot of cap space. So I was checking to see how much fab he had, and it looks like he emptied out his whole coffers on I don't know whoever he picked up in the last couple of weeks, which leaves him no money to pivot to that defense if he so wanted. Which I know some people might prefer Giants defense against Arizona, but I think Carolina defense against Denver is a pretty good option with how they've been playing. So I don't want to say it's a blunder because I could easily see the Giants outscoring that defense, but on paper the matchup does look pretty enticing for the Panthers. So I do consider myself fortunate that he doesn't have that flexibility.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think this is huge. I think the fact that he's at $0 right now, I mean, even if he wins this week, if something happens, it could have ramifications later as well. Either way, if he wins or loses, right? Like you still want to get. I mean, even if it's third or fourth, you still want to try and win. But
Wait, he's down to 0?
he's down to zero, actual zero.
Actual zero. Also, he doesn't have a backup quarterback, so
What?
If God forbid, if Tom Brady or Mahomes catches COVID, he's looking at a very, very tough decision to play, a wide receiver or a running back at his super flex, which, you would hope to leave yourself a little bit more flexibility going into playoffs. Like, there isn't that many opportunities for him to get any more, really. It's just going to have to come down to, the weekly fab, right? So I do question it. I do question the process. I think he might still win it all, honestly, just because his team is that good. But, if I have to question a move, I think spending, however much fab he did on a couple of players in the last couple of weeks was questionable. I think he spent 5 or 6 free agent budget on Mike Glennon, which, I didn't think was necessary to go that high. And even if you, don't get Mike Glennon for 5 or 6, like, his playoff spot was assured, so I didn't understand that move. And now that he dropped Mike Glennon, he really has no capability to pick up another quarterback. If we're talking about COVID times, like, the NFL would probably bend over backwards to make sure that Mahomes plays, like they'll push the game or whatever. But I mean, even if they push the game, you could be looking at a week 15, 14, 16 without Mahomes and no quarterback to replace him. Like, I don't know. I think it's a little bit too dangerous, but as the wise wonky says, we'll see.
You got to leave $1. Right?
Yeah, I think you got to leave one. I think you got to
I left $1 because I figure, like, I might, kicker might get injured, right? You got to at least be able to pick up.
I mean, he does have 2 kickers. He does have 2 kickers. So that one's the less problematic one. I think the QB is huge. I mean, I guess his team is strong enough where he could beat, another playoff team with with a running back playing the super flex, but man, I don't know. It seems like a very, very questionable move to do that, especially when the guys you're picking up were Mike Glennon for $5. Like, I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed in that too.
It's giving me anxiety. Yeah, go ahead.
If Ken is still listening, he's got approximately 30 minutes to get his pick 'em in.
Oh man, but he's facing against all these others like me and Warren and Matt, who are always trying to get that $2. And yeah, I mean, even for me, I left $1 as well. I was very happy I got 2, and then I spent it immediately. But there's Like, there's no way.
This is a move that easily could go unpunished. But if we're talking strictly about process, if we're talking strictly about what is the ideal move, I don't think leaving 0 at this juncture is anywhere close to ideal. Especially when the players that he got, I don't think were must-get guys. If you needed, a defense or something, and you spent all your free agent budget on it, that's fine. But he was in a Week 13 situation where the win
doesn't matter.
But it didn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. So why are you spending 5 on Glennon? Like Glennon, like if you don't get Glennon and you get the next guy that's on waivers, like are you really
whatever? Yeah.
Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to criticize too hard because, I am facing him and there's a good chance he probably wins anyway. Like despite the questionable moves, but I did think that was really,
Yeah, it is. And this is why he's avoiding the media, I bet. This is why he's not on the show. He wants to make his moves. He wants to make them with whatever he's thinking. And that's fine, honestly. But just, that definitely just gave me a lot of anxiety. And another reason why this is not so good. We have multiple waiver wire periods, right? Like if you have just a Thursday, I don't know if that's as bad as in previous years, but this
Yeah,
year,
yeah.
especially, things change. The COVID you mentioned already, like anyone can get, any star player knocked out. I'm the only one who had that happen, but like it can happen to everyone, right? So, yeah, we'll see, but um, best of luck. Let's Oh yeah, and at this point, if you guys need to hop off at any time, feel free to do so because you guys are here to cover the playoff matchups. I think we've done that in pretty thorough detail, so we can get to the less important but still important matchups in Week 14 if you guys want.
There's other matchups.
So to the rest of the league, the other six teams that exist, Week 14 I think is still really important, and the way that I've been going about my season, I know it's been lost for a while, but I still looked at Week 14 as the focal point. I don't care about anything that happens in between when I was losing up until Week 14. Week 14 is where I will do the best that I can and try to avoid those penalties that happen to the teams that fall.
It's huge for all three of you because for the bottom matchup, winning in Week 14 gives you a chance to avoid all of them by you
Yes.
finish as high as
Yep.
fourth from last. And the top one, obviously, winning that one gets you into the consolation bracket final, I guess. So
Of course.
that one's huge. And then the middle one is the same thing. You go up or you go down. That one
Yeah.
probably has the biggest variance.
It's the hugest, yeah.
Yeah, if you lose that one, then you could be looking at 3 extra raises and all that stuff, and the poop and stuff. Or if you win, then all of a sudden you're looking at consolation bracket final, and anything can happen in a final. So I think these are actually, not more on the line, but there's a lot of pressure for each of these teams because it does have a huge effect on what their team is going to be next year. The playoff teams are just playing for the now, obviously. But these consolation bracket teams are playing for the now and the future. So
Yeah, and no matter how bad your season has gone, you don't want to end up as the poop. You don't want to get those 3 penalties on your salaries for the next year. I mean, that goes without saying, right? Like, obviously, but this is going to be a pivotal week in deciding that, and for all the penalties, for all the prizes that go on with the consolation bracket. Let's just start from the bottom, which is the New England Kingfishers versus the Mars Trading Enterprise. And these two teams have been on the bottom the whole season. We don't need to go in detail on each of the starting lineups or whatever. You can just say a little bit about what you think about the matchup. Who do you think might win, and what might be pivotal? Let's start with you, Hua.
Oh wait, what?
Okay, let's start with Duo then. We're just looking at the matchups for New England versus Mars.
Come back to me.
Yeah, we'll come back to you.
there's also the Week 13 matchup, which is
Yes, it is a repeat of the Week 13 matchup.
we've just seen what a 1 week matchup kind of looks between these two teams.
It's pretty bad.
It is. I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought it could be.
True.
There's some ugly numbers, some weird players starting. This is what happens in the bottom.
This might have been a world familiar to you in the past, Duo, but from the looks of it, maybe it is firmly in the past, and you're off the greater things.
I mean, it's in the past for this year, but next year I fully believe I'm going to be in this matchup here. You know what? I will say, like, even though you are the poop, you could still be first somehow, as evidenced by what happened to me this year. So, for both of you guys, have some confidence.
Oh yeah, good point.
It's true. I think Duo's story is like the biggest. I mean, it shows that you can, be in the mix to win it all. A season after getting 10th, which means he absorbed all the extra raises. He didn't even get first pick, so he didn't get like the absolute best you can get out of that. But yet he and his keepers didn't look spectacular going into the season. But it just shows like a little bit of meme magic, a little bit of fantasy god luck, a little bit of I'm sure some skill and insight factored into it a little bit too. But all those things can mean that you can swing your team around way quicker than it seemed like before. All you have to do is chug White Claws and watch football.
Duho was like going from like he started watching football. He actually read the bylaws. Like before this year, he was like barely playing. So
Yeah,
Can you
that's why I'm saying I think from now on out, Duo is gonna be a threat every year. You know, this guy, he's a different guy. He's a different
So
animal.
here's my worry for this matchup.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sorry, we're back to the matchup. Yeah.
Like we just
Go
said,
ahead.
Mars can improve by starting to watch football. But what does New England do to improve? I feel like you already watch football.
Oh wow, wow! I see how that goes. I see how that goes. Yeah. Oh, okay, okay.
So
Yeah, that's true. That is
actually,
true.
speaking actually about the matchup, we did see what happened last week. Mars did win pretty handily, and that is with a 0 from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But I think what's going to be different this week is, Derek Carr and Ruggs are obviously not playing the Jets, so they won't get a chance to victimize you as they did last week. That was a pretty big swing right at the end of the game, and just in general, the games that they both had overall ended up being a pretty big damaging blow to you. So I think this week the matchups are decent amount better for you. I mean, not great matchups across the board, but just maybe not as slanted towards Mars as it was last week. So I don't know if this is like an upset or not, but I actually think I'm gonna pick New England to win the 9-10 matchup.
Man, I just realized that he doesn't have Derek Carr or Ruggs in his starting lineup. They literally, he just literally popped them in when they got that stack to go, and then now he's just taking them out when the matchup doesn't look good, which he should do, of course. But man, that makes me feel a little bad. You guys don't have to say anything if you don't want to while I do, but if you guys want to speak to it, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same as Dustin. I actually like your team a lot more than John's. I'm not a big believer in Clyde just because of the kind of situation he's in. Like Le'Veon's been kind of usurping a lot of his usage, and then going to next year, you might have what's his face, the other receiver that opted out this year.
Damian Williams.
Right, Damian Williams. He might be coming back as well. So it's just like, going back to that trade that he did with Dustin, I felt like he could have gotten a better piece. And now we're looking at a Week 14 matchup at Miami.
Dude, you should have just traded for Rodgers, bro. You
Apparently,
should have paid up.
should have paid up. But like, I think the way that this team is set up right now is a culmination of that decision. And because he was talking shit to me, the fantasy gods aren't very happy. And I mean, look at him right now. Like, I think he's gonna lose.
It's crazy though. I will say, if you said like 4 weeks ago, a certain team in week 14 is starting, Kiki Kuti and T.Y. Hilton, you probably would have not have guessed that it's one of the favorites. And I feel like those two names are or more surprising than really anyone that you guys are starting. So like, this isn't as bottomed out of a slate as I thought it would be. Like, you guys have started some rough guys during the regular season, especially leading up to like this week. But I do think both of you kind of try to build a team that could peak at week 14, like we were saying, Wong Q. Like, I do see that this is a pretty solid starting roster for both sides, and these names I'm seeing wouldn't look out of place on pretty much any team. So I do think this is probably the best version of these matchups as you can get, and I think it does speak a lot to how teams do set up once they're out of the playoff race. They do kind of set up for to kind of have the best kind of roster at week 14.
Yep, I hope it works out. And honestly, I'm also kind of rooting for Mars too. It's like you don't want to see the same teams over and over in the bottom. So it's best of luck. Let's go to the next matchup, just a bit above from the basement, is Yonkers versus LIC. Another pretty intriguing one, and this is what we talked about earlier, of the ramifications of this is going to be huge.
Yeah, this one's huge, and honestly, neither team really deserves to be dropping down to the bottom.
Right? They don't. They don't.
One team. I mean, you and John deserve to be in the bottom.
We do. I agree.
Yeah. No offense, but that you've earned that.
Yeah.
One of these teams is gonna feel pretty hard done by losing this matchup. Because,
right.
They can't both win, and one of them that drops you into getting the the penalties. So yeah, really interesting matchup, I think.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that I thought about way earlier too. Like we talked about, having a shot at the consolation, but I don't think I had a real legitimate chance at the consolation anyways. So it was time to just try to set up a matchup where if I win in week 14, I'll absolve myself from the poop bowl, right? So
Yep,
that
yep.
that's something that I kind of try to do, honestly, but we'll see how it goes. I could end up being there anyway. So back to Yonkers LIC, they are really good teams. I think, LIC is on the upward trend right now. Like a lot of his players are really, really good. And then Yonkers, we know his story. A lot of the injuries earlier in the season, and then he looked like he had a great playoff bound team in the middle of the season, and then it just went downhill.
You started simping for him, and
Yeah, I cursed him. I started simping, and then I cursed him.
You did not keep your curse contained to your own team by liking another team and rooting for it. You also spread it to their team.
The other thing was that I had the same team as him in a different league, which also cursed him. That's you never want that. Duo, who do you think is going to win in this matchup?
I mean, I really think Warren's team is a playoff level team. He's got so many strong players on his roster, and he's also the beneficiary of a little bit of John Tilt, picking up Melvin off the waiver wire here.
Yeah.
I just think the Yonkers team is just too banged up and missing too many pieces to actually sustain anything.
Yeah.
I actually think Yonkers might be in the poop bowl next week, and could have a chance of losing. I mean, you look at these guys like Tyler Boyd. He's suffering from poor QB play, just a lack of an offense over there. The fact that he lost Carson Wentz to a benching, so now he has to start Alex Smith instead. A lot of his players are just underperforming. I don't have much confidence in that side.
Yeah, that's very, very fair points. Well, are you there? Maybe if you're not there, we can move on. But if you want to say something, I'll give you a moment.
No, I team here. I think the two running backs are just insane, right? I actually think that you look up and down the roster, and pretty much everyone here could start on a playoff team.
Mm-hmm.
Sneak onto a playoff team, which is pretty incredible.
Just shows how good this league was really in 2020. I think it's been amazing. But go ahead, Dustin.
I did say it would be really unfair for one of these teams, but I do think in terms of likelihood to win, this might be one of the more lopsided round one matchups, mostly because I think the matchups are kind of rough for Yonkers, and like Duo said, Tyler Boyd trending down, a lot of players trending down due to injury or guys getting replaced. But the big one for me, I think, is Pittsburgh at Buffalo. I think Pittsburgh's still a great defense, but they are showing a little bit of cracks, and Buffalo, I think, is an offense that could actually even hurt them, even though I don't think they've gone negative all year, So it really sucks that that's their Week 14 matchup, because I think Pittsburgh has been a really, really big part of what Yonkers has been this whole year.
Right.
They've been, I think, the top defense, but, if not, they've definitely come up really big for them in a lot of spots.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they're trending down and facing a tough matchup at the same time in Week 14 when he needs them the most really sucks, because you can't really replace Pittsburgh defense. That's one of the defenses that you just play every week, and you just live with whatever results you get. But I do think this is probably the worst time all year to play Pittsburgh defense.
Absolutely, and I don't blame Jay either. I think I would actually play the Pittsburgh defense.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
I agree too.
it just sucks.
They're so good, but in terms of expectations, you probably have to scale your expectations back a little bit just because of matchup and how Pittsburgh has looked. So yeah, it is really unfortunate, but I do see LIC winning this one just because all those factors, and LIC is just a strong team anyway. They probably don't deserve to be in this 7-8 matchup. So that's just another piece of unluckiness for Yonkers, but I guess we'll see what happens, but I would say this is probably one of the more lopsided postseason week 1 matchups.
Yeah, we'll see how it turns out. What's so fun about these predictions is a lot of times we're just basing it off of who we see, these names that we see in their matchups. But the real world has its plans, and it's going to anything can happen, right? We'll see the on the fence meme. It just
On the
you
fence
never
emoji.
know. Yeah, you never know, and that goes true for this matchup. That holds true for the previous matchup with our predictions. You just don't know, and that's just the fact of life here. Let's go to the last matchup: Harlem versus Flushing, and Flushing, of course, they've just barely missed the playoffs. It's got to be disappointing, but they can take solace in the fact that they're not in any of those other two matchups where you're going to be getting heavy penalties. You may potentially if you lose and then lose again, but still, it's better than being in the others. As well as Harlem, who also a couple weeks ago was in the mix for the playoffs. I think everyone was in the mix for the playoffs except for two, maybe three teams, but more like two teams. Again, another strong team, and I think the biggest storyline for them is Christian McCaffrey not being able to play this week. It's going to hurt them, but they do have Mike Davis, so maybe that's okay. Yeah, what do you guys think about these teams here, and who's going to win? Let's start with Duo.
I think they're both pretty close, to be honest with you, because I think Harlem actually has a lot of upside kind of players, and of course DK Metcalf has been a revelation this year. Just insane, right? I mean, playing against Justice would be a really nice boon for his potential performance. Like you said, CMC being out is kind of shitty. They spent a lot of draft or a lot of capital to be able to acquire him, but in hindsight, that capital probably wouldn't have helped that much either. So,
True.
there's some pieces to Harlem's team that I really like going into this week, and some decent matchups as well. Meanwhile, with Flushing, you can't discount Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray. Despite what looks like some difficult matchups on that side, he's still got a lot of pieces that can probably help him a lot in this performance here. I mean, don't forget, he was a playoff contender and he was very close to getting there. Still would have been a scary team no matter what.
Yep.
So, at the same time, Harlem's pretty underrated. So it's tough to say. I think it's gonna be a pretty close one here.
Yeah. Hua? If you're there.
Yeah, sorry, I was just there's a pee on a onesie situation.
Yeah, no worries.
No, I've said all along. I think that this Flushing team, they narrowly missed the playoffs, but I could see them they have the talent level of playoff team, and I think kind of if you look at Dustin's team in the finals, one of the reasons I wouldn't want to play him is because of the QB play, and I feel like Flushing has a similar dynamic here where in a two-week matchup, you feel like Kyler and Deshaun probably put up, something like 100 points, rain or shine, right?
Oh my God.
Whether it's you know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
It's 40-point matchup here or there, combined with a regular one, but those scare me in 2 weeks. In 1 week, I think it's. I mean, I do want to shout out on this team. The Taysom Hill pickup is interesting.
Insane. I think it was a great pickup. I was kicking myself. I should have done that. And honestly, I think someone should have picked him up on the Thursday. I believe he's unkeepable. And it's really funny that we're talking about him as a keeper, but he could be a keeper if he was picked up on Thursday. We don't know what New Orleans is going to do with their QB situation, if Drew Brees is going to retire or not, and who's the successor, and it could be Taysom. And from what we've seen, it's not terrible. It's passable.
It's passable
for fantasy too,
especially in fantasy.
Yeah,
there's some value in exactly what he does, especially on a fantasy standpoint. Taysom Hill went for $3 and Mike Glennon went for $5.
We're going back to that. Okay.
I'm gonna keep beating that drum. Beats me and knocks me out of the playoffs, but
it's true.
My take on this matchup is that honestly, Harlem and Flushing kind of have similar stories in terms of how they got to this point. Not in the construction of their team, but kind of what the situation they were at around the trade deadline. They were kind of both not in driver's seat, but probably the two favorites for the spot, because at the time I think Virginia was lagging a little bit behind, and Yonkers had already kind of looked like their team was just getting injured and falling apart. So I think they have probably been looking at each other's teams more in the context of like, oh, can I make playoffs, or like, am I gonna pass this guy? Like
Right,
I think
right.
they probably are familiar with each other's teams on that front more than anything. In terms of how their teams are set up, though, it is pretty different. We see a lot of wide receiver talent with Harlem. Beasley's been killing it. Cooper Kupp, Metcalf, T. Higgins, Claypool. That's a dynamic and pretty young group of wide receivers that have all huge ceilings. Whereas Flushing is a lot more based on Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson. So it is really interesting as to what what can happen in a 1 week matchup with these two teams. I do think it is going to come down to Deshaun Watson and Brandon Cooks. If Cooks scores a couple touchdowns or two, that helps in terms of getting the rest of his production up to somewhat match Harlem's rest of production. And I think the QBs on paper at least should be a decent amount stronger. Even though Hill and Rivers have been fine over the last weeks, I think those two guys could definitely have a somewhat of a stinker where they just put up like 12, 13 points. Whereas, like Boss said, I think Kyler and Watson, you pretty much pencil them in for like 23, 25 points as a floor, and then their ceilings are obviously much higher. So
Yeah.
This one's really tough to pick, though. This one is really tough to pick for me. I could see it going either way for this one.
I wouldn't discount Chu's receiver core either, though. I mean, he's got some pretty strong studs on that side, and they have some pretty good matchups this week. Like Terry McLaurin probably has the toughest matchup, but we just saw what the Bills could do against that defense. So I think his team is much stronger than it actually looks here.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah, he's gonna need some booms out of his wide receivers, but they're definitely all capable guys. Especially
Right.
Keenan Allen and McLaurin are not even like, it wouldn't be a stretch for either one of them to have like really good games, obviously. But I'm talking about maybe one out of like Shepard, Patrick, or Cooks need to put up a supplementary big game to go with that. And that's why I think Watson going to Cooks for a touchdown would be huge, or either one of those other guys scoring would be huge, because if that happens, I think they'll be too even in the non-QB situation, and I do think his QB should edge out Harlem, but anything could happen.
Yeah, what's so interesting to me is both of these guys have chosen to go with the 5 wide receiver. They've got 2 running backs, and I think you've covered it. They have their strengths and respectively, right? The QB and the wide receivers. But to me, the running back matchup is going to be what decides it, I think, as those other factors neutralize. And I would lean a little bit more towards Flushing, actually, but it's close with those running backs, and I think you guys are spot on. It's these teams are both very good. Obviously, they were in the playoff mix at some point, and it sucks that they're facing each other here. They probably had higher aspirations, but this is how it is, and this matchup is going to be, I think, probably the closest of the ones that we see in Week 14. Let's go to the free agent pickups before we wrap up the show. These are really important at this stage in the game, I think. So I think we should take a little bit of time to look at them here.
Yeah, I mean, a few of these guys are starting in Week 14, which is huge. I think Duo picked up Cole Kmet, who says he might start. Capital Region picked up T.Y. Hilton, also currently in the starting lineup. I picked up Gesicki. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot there. Mitch Trubisky was picked up for Virginia, and he might start this week. So, yeah, there's a lot of relevant stuff.
Yeah, a lot of starters. I mean, Alex Smith also got picked up by Yonkers. I think he's starting. I picked up Rob Gronkowski as a revenge game to start against Mars. And a pickup that
I actually saw that in the matchup earlier. I glossed over because in my mind, Gronkowski in this matchup just seemed normal, but I forgot that he used to be on John's team.
Yeah.
Now he's on your team.
Yeah. Yep. Here we go. One last ride. And then Peyton Barber. I really like the Peyton Barber pickup. I was kind of surprised that he was only for 2 and that it went to Harlem. I thought that some other running back needy team would pick him up, as Gibson did go down, right? And we mentioned it earlier. There's a lot of opportunity there in addition to McKissick. McKissick. I think Peyton Barber.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the
McKissick is as
you know.
much a wide receiver as anything. So,
Right.
Peyton Barber, really strong pickup. I am surprised he only went for 2.
Yeah, and you know me, I love Peyton Barber, so that's why I really like that. Is there anything else, Duo? You got any other thoughts here? There are a couple, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I think, unfortunately, I think Frank Gore is actually playing this week. So.
Oh, he is? Oh,
Yeah.
that sucks then. Okay, never mind. Then I don't lean Flushing on that matchup.
He spent $9 on that pickup when he could have gotten Payne Barber too.
Yeah. In the matchup that matters too. I'm not sure if it looked like Payne Barber wasn't starting, but maybe he does get slotted in there, and that's gonna hurt extra. If that happens. Hua, do you have thoughts here on the pickups?
Mitch Trubisky revenge game.
I forgot that.
Robinson only, bro. I'm sorry.
I had to hedge the Allen Robinson.
Perfect.
But Duo hedged your hedging by also getting Cole Kmet.
Oh,
No.
oh, the outplay. It already started even before the game started.
Meanwhile, Trubisky even need hedges?
The Mitch Trubisky, if this is not a mirage, and I'm not sold that it isn't, he has a pretty good schedule.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So here's the only thing about Mitch Trubisky. I think he's a little bit dangerous in that he could be replaced at halftime of some games, and in our league, it's okay to be bad. A lot of times, in the first half, as long as you get some garbage time to soak up all the bad stats, and you still end up with 16, 17, 18 points. But Trubisky is probably on the high end of guy that could be replaced mid game, just because there's not a lot between him and Foles, I think, in terms of talent and how the coaching staff feels about them. So that would really be my only worry. I think Duo could be tackling if Trubisky has a really bad first half and then he gets benched, and I could see some clanger in that scenario. But the matchups do look really enticing down the stretch. So there's definitely a high ceiling here.
I just think it's funny that he lied to me about not picking up Trubisky.
Yeah. What did you ask him? You just asked, are you picking up Trubisky?
Yeah, straight up. I was just like, I don't know how I feel about Drew Lock in this matchup, man. Are you gonna Trubisky? And he's like, no, I'm gonna start Drew Lock. He's MVP.
Not even a maybe. I would have hit him with the maybe, yes, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. You never know.
A probably not. I don't like to just blatantly lie.
Fantasy juju, man. The gods are not.
Oh God.
Wait a minute. I didn't actually. Did I? I thought I deflected.
We'll check the records. The other bigger thing.
No,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm rolling it back. He said, "Are you rolling with Locke?" And I said, "Yo, Carolina sucks MVP." I did not deny it.
Okay. But are you starting Locke though?
I didn't say it was.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of that Carolina defense, it got dropped, so everyone knows, and we'll see what happens to that if anyone picks that up.
Carolina defense had a really good week. Last couple weeks they've been good, and the Denver matchup at least looks pretty good on paper. But I'm not saying that it's for sure a defense that I would rather have than what.
Of course.
I was just more speaking to I was surprised at checking his free agent budget, and I was like, 0? Oh shit, because I was a little bit worried about that. But I imagine someone else could swoop in. The thing about Sunday waivers means that teams have that kind of flexibility, which
yes, sir,
makes this year very different from I think previous years. So that should be fun.
T.Y. Hilton and the Giants defense is what he picked up for 6 and 7 respectively. I do think, if I were to try and get in Ken's head right now, this is what he's thinking. I got burned on defenses all year by bidding too little because I was ahead in the standings. And so this is my time to go and get that defense for this week, and I'm going to spend it all. That's probably what he's thinking. I don't know, of course, what he's thinking, but man, I should have left $1 though, in my opinion.
I do think so. I do think so. I like.
But
I obviously don't want to root for a situation where it comes back to bite him, but like, it really could. And I am surprised that he did go emptying all the free agent budget, in week 14 when there's even if he does get past me, like the odds that he might want or need that extra fab, like, in week 14 or 15, it's decently high.
yeah, and I think like you have to always think about right now, like adjusting to what you got. Yes, those things happen and they're in the past, but now your advantage was actually the fact that you had more fab than everyone else. So you could have leveraged that a little bit better, I think. But who knows? Maybe you end up winning the championship anyways, Ken. So it's it is what it is. And yeah,
In a way, I hope he does, because he's gonna be rubbing it in all our faces, like, oh,
yeah, if he does, that's
screw
true.
you guys.
That's true.
Screw you guys, I still won.
One more
yeah,
thing,
go ahead.
though, is when I was looking at how much to spend on Trubisky, during playoff waivers, you only have 3 guys to compete against, and both Great Kills and Oakland were at like 0 salary room. So like he basically Ken just had to look at me and see if I had roster flexibility. I probably wasn't. I have defense set, right? So I don't think if he just looked at that and saw,
That's
who can Great Kills drop, right?
Really good point for playoff team only.
Very good point.
Should always be what you're doing.
We missed it, but yeah, huge point.
Right. Because I was looking at, like, okay, what is this guy's max bid? Okay, like,
huge point.
This player or whatever. Like, then you're only really narrowing it down to competing against.
Yeah. That does make it look
I
pretty
hope,
bad.
Like learning
experiences, yeah.
Experiences. I think we've seen it this year already. Like, teams continue to evolve in how much better they get at different aspects of what we call fantasy football. So, I do hope that these are, kind of, learning experiences and lessons to take forward, because, I do see some, like, really, really strong moves pretty much every week with all the teams in our league.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been very impressed, obviously, by you 4 in terms of making the playoffs. And then, of course, we've mentioned a lot of other names who are in the mix. So a lot of great moves by a lot of people. And, yeah, best of luck to all of you guys. I do think if I were to make one last bold prediction before we leave here, something that I've thought about a lot was that back-to-back championship. That's what I try to do going into this year. But I think whoever wins this year, I feel like they have a really strong. No. The bold prediction is that they will win back-to-back. That's what I'm gonna go with.
That is interesting.
That's what I'm going with, and you can already kind of tell who I'm leaning towards, which teams would be in the mix for that.
Duo.
Sorry, Duo. Sorry.
If Duo wins 2 in a row, I would be so happy for it, just because, like, of all teams to win 2 in a row, with all the setups to win 2 in a row, if Duo wins it with his, like, $57 DJ Moore next year and all that stuff, then more power to him, because that is just such an epic story.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that Wonky's prediction is not referring to Duo, but it would be funny if he fulfilled it somehow.
It's happening, boys. Look out.
It's happening, boys.
I've spoken it. Clip it, boys. Let's get it on a highlight next year. This time, let's get it.
Speaking of it, I think that is probably, like, the next, big achievement that people are looking forward to. The perfect season happened. Others, like, coming back from, like, 1-5, that's happened. Those are both, like, pretty remarkable things. But after 13 years, nobody's won it back to back, right? So I think it would be really interesting and exciting to see how and if or when that happens. So I mean that's certainly a bold prediction.
Anything else to close out? You guys have anything?
My bold prediction is Qua wins it all, completing my preseason prediction of Quasier, #Quasier. If I don't win it, that's what I'm rooting for. I just want to, I feel like, he deserves some fantasy happiness. Hopefully that makes Joanna's home life a little bit happier by having a happier dad. So yeah, and the narrative of father Hua being undefeated, that'd be pretty sick too. So, you know, if I have to root as a impartial viewer, that's what I'm rooting for.
Yeah, guys, we're on YouTube now, so you guys gotta take your shots so we can get those clips.
Sure, it's a lot easier.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot easier to go back and.
Look at this.
Happening. How many times do I gotta tell you guys?
Yeah, Duo's goal prediction is it's his year. He's winning.
It's mine, man. I'm taking it still.
What? You wanna?
Your pick, though.
Sorry, what was that?
You didn't get your pick for who you think's gonna win.
Oh, I said it.
Is that it's gonna be a back-to-backer.
Whoever is gonna win is gonna win next year too.
He's making a bolder prediction than just winner of this year. He's not choosing a specific one, but
Nope.
instead he's saying that they're winning 2 in a row, which is I guess even harder.
They're going back to back. I feel it. I've seen it. I've come from the future. I've already seen it. 2021.
Give us a hot take, Hua.
I kind of don't want to say it,
Oh,
but
Say
that means you have to.
Yeah. Put it out into the world, whatever you're thinking.
what I would really like to do is be the first to win with the kid.
Ah.
Oh!
Sure, wait.
Oh!
I just want to say Warren's been pushing this narrative ever since he's had his twins that fatherhood is a hindrance. It's what's holding him back. But if Hua wins this year, it'll actually prove that Warren is washed regardless of his
Definitive proof.
Yeah, nothing to do with the father status. He's just old and washed up. So Hua, if you win, that's the narrative I'm gonna push. So thank you for putting that out.
Oh, that was amazing. Oh, that's how we needed to end that show. Oh my God, thank you guys again for being on the show, and honestly, thanks to everybody for making this such a great season. I think this has been a really tough year for a lot of people, for many different reasons, right? For some that are obvious, some that are not, and this has been a really, really fun experience. Even though I had a 2-11 season, I still thought that this was such a fun season, hanging out with all you guys and doing this. So, thank you guys, and this is it. This is the last show of the year.
I just wanna thank Wonku specifically because doing all this stuff when you're 2-11, I mean, it is harder than doing all this stuff when you're 10-3 and winning a championship. I mean, just mentally, like, having to face this every week and be the same level of engaged and same level of commitment to what you do. I think that's really admirable, and I do want to thank you for doing this every week despite your results. I also want to give a shout out to, I think, engagement across the league is at an all-time high. I think
all-time high.
Everybody is tuned in. I think maybe earlier in previous years, not everybody was the same level or up to the same standards of engaged in the show, the chat, all that stuff. But I think this year, it's a new level. Everybody is contributing, creating, discussing, which I think it helps us a lot, as media members, just to have discussion on what we say and stuff. I think I'm really proud of the league and where it is right now.
Yeah, and it's all thanks to the commissioners, both of the past and of the present. So Dustin, amazing in getting this off the ground and running, and then Hua taking it over.
Everybody here, pat yourself on the back except for Duho.
Amazing. Yeah. Duho, step up your game, bro.
Yeah,
No, Duho, you can pat yourself on the back.
that's true. I mean, Duho.
No, yeah, Duho is amazing. Yeah.
He's also a big driver of engagement. I think he's always talking shit or self-deprecating, or he's always doing something in the chat, which I think is big.
Salary sheet, yeah.
And then the playoff, the playoff and the salary sheet stuff is obviously really big too. So
Yeah, and also
other than the engagement, I was just gonna say it's easier to commissioner a league where people read the rules and pay attention and try to follow them. And thank you, Duho, for stepping up and reading the bylaws.
Yeah, it's the first time, man.
Yeah. Duo was correcting other people in chat. He was like, dude, of course that you can't do that, and can't do that. Duo was read the fucking bylaws.
Amazing. And then I do want to also thank Ken for making all these really weird moves too, so that we can criticize on the show. We have to put down
I
some.
do feel bad that a lot of what we talk about Capital Region and Ken is criticism, but it is all love, and I do think
Yeah.
overall,
Of course.
the job he's done is just so great. But it just sucks that we have to talk about the mistakes more than the successes.
Yep. Good luck to you guys. It's just unfortunate that two of you guys will have your season end really soon, and it's just how it is. And it's also just the statistics of it. You know, there's only one winner, but still appreciate what you've accomplished, and we'll see you guys again in 2021. Thanks, everybody.